What's going on, you guys? It's your boy Bleed from Just Bleed MMA, and we're bringing you the odds.com post show for UFC 254. I got my man Al Mack here. How you doing, Al Mack?
Good. It's 6 p.m. Eastern, and we're talking about some post fights. So I mean, you can't get any better than that for a Saturday.
I know, crazy, right? We've totally completed a full UFC, an absolute banger, action-packed, legendary card, all in all. Let's get into it, though. First fight of the night on the main card, we had Magomed Ankalaev get the win by KO, 4 minutes and 19 seconds in the first round over Iwan Kudalaba. Man, Magomed Ankalaev came out as a heavy favorite. I want to say about close somewhere in that minus 325, 330 range. Goes out there and just shows he is the better man in this matchup. Handles Iwan Kudalaba with ease. Man, Iwan at no point really had anything for him. Really didn't even throw him a lot of shots. Magomed Ankalaev, man, we got to be on the lookout for this guy. Truly looks to be one of the best 205ers we have going. What'd you think of the fight?
I thought it was great. I just, a lot of hype. I've thought for not, a whole lot of delivery as far as the fight goes. The inside the distance at minus 120 on Ankalaev was probably the way to go, and then the undercashed plus 117, depending on where you got it, in that plus 110, 115 range. But again, I didn't think, I feel like a lot of the MMA world was expecting that to be a banger, and it fell a little bit short, to be honest.
Yeah, I tell you what, man, it's abundantly clear that Ankalaev's just a better fighter, probably in every way. I think a lot of people thought that Iwan was going to, go in there and potentially be the more dangerous striker. Wow, every time he came forward, Ankalaev, just beautiful counter shots, ends up clipping him with an absolutely monstrous left, puts him down, jumps on him, probably some unnecessary ground and pound, man, a lot of hammer fists, then just ends up throwing some straight punches straight down, just totally puts him out cold. Magomed Ankalaev rolls on. One thing I want to point out, man, hopefully you guys are watching this, you watched the Friday show, and you tailed me on that Russian parlay because we cashed it tonight fully, but let's keep it rolling, man. So that was our first fight on the main card. Second fight of the night, we had Lauren Murphy winning by submission, second round, 3 minutes, 31 seconds over Liliya Shakharova. Another fight, man, that, I think a lot of people saw going this way. I saw a few people that were willing to take the underdog shot on Shakharova, but, man, Lauren Murphy goes out there and proves she truly is one of the best women right now in MMA. I mean, big underdog in her most recent fights, comes out here as the heavy favorite, and, wow, well-deserving. I can't think of really any moment she was losing the fight. She just looked cold, calculated, ends up finding her first submission ever in the UFC. Could you give us the odds on that prop?
Yeah, so Murphy by submission, the best odds are at plus 1,400, which it's not 22 to 1 like GDR was the other
Sure.
week, but that's still a big one. And again, it's one of those things where I don't think anybody's seen that coming. Even the under 2.5 rounds was plus 320. So fight goes the distance no was plus 300. So, I mean, I think, I don't think a lot of people saw Murphy winning inside the distance here. But, again, another one of those things, Shakharova, a lot of people were pretty high on Shakharova. Yeah. And, I didn't really see much to say that she was, that the hype was all, what it was cracked up to be. I thought Murphy handled her, like you said, there wasn't any moment in that fight where I was concerned about Murphy. Minus 225 on the money line, she closed. She showed that there was value on her.
Absolutely.
Betting that, even just straight, no parlay involved.
Definitely. Yeah, super impressive performance, man. People, I think she was, going to be a heavy favorite coming this. Originally, it was going to be Cynthia Calvillo, which, I can't even remember where that fight was lined at, but ended up getting the short notice replacement, somebody coming in on a debut. People, got her at the minus 225 mark, and it turns out, like you said, there was some value there because at no point did she really seem to be in any trouble. Pretty much in the driver's seat the entire fight until she found the finish. Phenomenal performance from Lauren Murphy on that one. Well, here's one that's not going to take too long to talk about. Phil Hawes with the absolute destruction. KO 18 seconds into round one over the debuting Jacob Malkoun. Wow, Megatron, Phil Hawes, a guy that pretty much everybody has the same read on. This guy's very deadly, super dangerous early in the first round. The thing is, you drag this guy out past the first round, a lot of that danger fades. You know, Malkoun actually could have been a live dog in this spot, but you don't got to worry about somebody fading in a fight when they're going to come out there and hit you with everything they got. Every good shot he threw on Malkoun landed. Malkoun slumped over. Absolutely one of the most vicious KOs we've seen. I think they actually, which they didn't show us this on the broadcast, but they did mention it. Malkoun needed helped out of the cage, not like helped up onto the stool. I'm pretty sure they had to walk this guy out. Ferocious stuff from the debuting fighter, Phil Hawes. Man, this guy, if he catches you in the first round, it's over. Not really sure what I think of him moving forward. I think he does still have some gas tank issues, but who needs a gas tank when you're icing guys in 18 seconds? What'd you think of this one?
Yeah, I thought, it was one of those things where, if you weren't sitting down, you might have missed what happened. It was just so quick. 18 seconds, the under 1.5 rounds prop cashed at plus 135. And, there was a ton of value there, especially considering fight goes the distance no was minus 205. So a good thing to do when you're betting these fights is look at all of those odds and see there's a big discrepancy there. If the no is so heavily favored, minus 205, but then the under plus 135, I thought that was a solid play. And, not even a sweat. Hawes got it done. And Hawes, I don't think there's it's such a big difference in competition for Malkoun. Malkoun, he just didn't know. He didn't have an answer for him. His boxing was just there was just nothing there, and Hawes just pieced him up. Didn't even piece him up. He just took care of him.
Yeah,
so quickly.
Unfortunately, I don't think we learned anything about Malkoun. No. I believe Malkoun's strategy was, okay, I'm going to circle out. I'm going to avoid this guy. I know this guy's dangerous early. Hawes just cuts off the cage. We end up getting Malkoun circling himself, backing up right into the cage. The worst thing you can do against a guy who's dangerous early is have your back against the cage and get stationary. I mean, Hawes steps into the pocket, hits him with some good shots. Malkoun's rocked. He's hurt. Tries to kind of right the ship, get back up, fire off his own shots. It doesn't matter. Everything Hawes is throwing is landing. Malkoun goes down. What else can we say? 18-second fight. Absolute blowout. Absolute wash. Hawes, man, this guy, he was, lined about a minus 225 favorite coming into this one. He's going to be a heavy favorite in that next matchup. You'd almost have to imagine. Unless they pair him up with somebody, very seasoned vet who's had a lot of fights. Maybe they give him a big jump and it's not so heavy, but I think a lot of people are going to see that highlight reel KO, and we're going to see Hawes probably as a heavy favorite moving forward. So, Did you have anything else you wanted to add to that one?
No, I was just going to say that was a clean KO too. Like that wasn't you're looking at the results, you'll see TKO. That was a clean was a clean KO. He was out. He was done.
That almost needs a new level of KO. Yeah. I'm not even sure what you could call it, but when they have to carry you out of the cage, that's a major KO. That's some serious brain trauma. So our next fight of the night, what do you know? Another KO, another finish, man. This card was absolutely loaded with action, loaded with finishes. We got Alexander Volkov getting the KO, 1 minute, 15 seconds of round number 2. Kick to the solar plexus of Walt Harris. Another phenomenal performance out of Alexander Volkov. A lot of people were worried. Volkov came in very, very big, very heavy to this fight. But I got to be honest, man, you look at the physique of Volkov, I think it's just a guy that's just getting bigger and stronger the older he gets. He's not, a very old heavyweight. This guy's got a whole long career ahead of him. And wow, he looked really good in this fight, man. Negated any and all the danger Walt Harris was bringing to the table. At no point could Walt Harris get anything going. Volkov keeps him on the outside, using that length. Sure enough, early in the second round, hits him with some really good shots. We see Walt Harris doing Walt Harris stuff, man. Walt Harris, like I talk about consistently, is a one-round fighter. Now, Walt Harris came in here much leaner, looking a lot better physically than he did in his last fight. Just didn't matter, man. The gas tank was maybe a little better than we saw in his last outing, but not enough. Walt Harris begins to fade. Volkov brings the teep kick right up the middle. I'm not sure if it was a liver shot, but it was definitely just a deep digging body shot. Walt Harris doubles over, retreats to the cage. Volkov lands a few shots. The ref says, I've seen enough. Standard Walt Harris quit job potentially. Volkov cashes as a minus. I want to say he was in the 185. I think he might even have been able to get him better at some points. Some points he was about minus 200, but either way, man, Volkov should have been a much bigger favorite in this fight. And another guy who I had in that Russian parlay comes through for us. What'd you think about this one, Al?
Yeah, it was one of those things where I had money on Harris just because it was just like you guys when you broke it down on Friday. Volkov looked a little bit bigger. And then Harris, I thought Harris looked the best that he's looked in his entire career.
I would agree.
I just thought maybe, Harris was going to be a little bit improved. And I think majority of his improvement was based on his physique and his gas tank, which we didn't really see. But, his cardio. But, he took that kick right up the middle, and it was like a solar plexus shot, and he just folded. And it was, he wanted no part of fighting after that. And, Volkov inside the distance cashes at plus 180. The under 1.5 rounds cashed at minus 130. All good plays to make here. And, again, there's some value here, especially when you're looking at the fight goes the distance was a minus 180.
Should have been much steeper than that. Walt Harris is a 1-round fighter, win or lose.
With two guys that are, bigger and one guy who's, has to cut down to get to heavyweight, and he's, as lean as he's ever looked, taking on a guy that was, the biggest he's ever been. It was a dead spot that, there was going to be a finish. It wasn't a great performance by Harris. His best part of the performance was his physique.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, man. And, it makes me wonder, I actually question the future of Harris. His record at this point is terrible, man. He's on a losing streak at this point. I'm not sure how much more Walt Harris we see now. The UFC heavyweight division isn't, stacked. It's not, loaded with talent. I'm guessing the UFC keeps him around. I mean, he's an explosive big heavyweight. When he wins, it's usually spectacularly. But I tell you what, man, let's see Volkov in, something close to a number one contenders fight. I actually like this bigger, heavier, stronger Volkov in this spot, man. Be on the lookout for Volkov. I think he's really coming into his own. Like I talked about earlier, man, phenomenal distance management, kept himself out of danger, just looked great. You can't really critique Volkov at all. It was kind of a flawless performance in my opinion. So great stuff out of Volkov. He cashes, and a fight that I was very confident in. So here's another one I was confident in. Didn't quite play out as well, man. The co-main event of the evening, Robert Whittaker with what, in my opinion, was a very dominant decision win. Was it all three judges scored the fight 29-28? I ask the question, what round did Jared Cannonier really win in this fight? I'm guessing most of them gave him the first round, where he was landing some very effective kicks to the knee of Robert Whittaker. But, man, for me, this fight, now taking nothing away from the Reaper, Robert Whittaker looked spectacular. He appears to have really bounced back from that KO loss against Adesanya. I wasn't too impressed in the Darren Till fight, but it kind of looks like he's shaken off some of the rust, got his feet back under him, man. Really good performance here against Jared Cannonier, but I got to say, man, I'm just very disappointed in the performance from Jared Cannonier, a guy that I liked, a guy that I ended up betting. Just a flat performance. Like I said, worked some good leg kicks early, but even abandoned that at one point. The guy just never let his hands go, constantly waited, and just basically waited himself out of the fight. The only moment when he actually got his hands going was about with a minute left in the third round. It was already too late. He was down 2 rounds on the scorecards, in my opinion. Actually hits Whittaker with a good shot, rocks him, wobbles him, but at that point it's too late. He can't jump on him, doesn't have enough time to finish him. Robert Whittaker gets out of there with a good decision win over a very game opponent. I'm not sure what we do with Robert Whittaker from here. It's kind of like he's right back up to a title shot, but man, with as bad as Adesanya dismantled him the first time, I don't know if I'm really into that fight. I think I'd rather see Whittaker fight another contender, but maybe they do Whittaker versus Adesanya. And as far as Cannonier, man, back to the drawing board, dude. The energy crystals did not cut it this time. Not sure what to say about Cannonier. I guess give him somebody middle, another middling, maybe someone in that 10 to 15 range of middleweights try to get back on track. What'd you think about this one, Al?
Yeah, like I feel like it was something like Cannonier was coming in and he took Whittaker lightly, and I feel like Whittaker was, I feel like he lost his confidence entirely in the Adesanya fight, and then he kind of gained a little bit of it back against Till. But what we saw against Cannonier today, he was 100%. He was just so confident. He was
looked like prime Whittaker.
Yes, yeah, he was. He was fearless. He was going forward. He didn't care if he was getting punched, because I think he was more. I think he was expecting more as far as the power went from Cannonier, and I feel like Cannonier was just trying to intimidate him and trying to use just like his physical dominance over him.
Sure.
But I don't know. I just, it clearly didn't work. And he was just he was walking forward while taking shots, and it just didn't make any sense. And it's funny, I was saying to you before we came live, when this fight was announced, I initially bet Whittaker by decision at plus 225, because I just felt like it was kind of a recency bias towards what we saw with Whittaker in 5 rounds versus Till. Really fine-tuned, like on his feints and on his ability to draw his opponent in. And that's not something that we did not see at all versus Adesanya. It seemed like it was getting really, really good with Till. And then with Whittaker, with Cannonier, it was like night and day. He was drawing him in. He was setting traps, and I fell for it too. I put a small wager on Cannonier today, just when I was making my picks, but I still had that Whittaker by decision in my pocket for a bit more of a wager on that one. And yeah, I just think that it was textbook, and it was something that like you said, you might not be interested in that Whittaker versus Adesanya fight again. But it won't be that fight again, because Whittaker doesn't look like that guy anymore. He looks like he's improved a lot since that fight, and it might be competitive now. And I think hopefully that's something that Izzy sees, is that Whittaker, there was just something off mentally about him in that fight, and I think that I would like to see it again. And then something, just a side note. We're seeing events in New Zealand and Australia happening with fans. So, I mean, maybe there's a chance that they could pull this off in 2021, in a stadium in New Zealand or something with fans. That would be, it'd be epic.
Yeah, it's a great point, man. Yeah, I mean, the whole philosophy with Cannonier had to be that, you were afraid of, because we talked about earlier in this week, me and the guys, that Whittaker is probably the better fighter. But we were all questioning that chin, that durability of Whittaker coming out of these wars and these KOs. The thing is, man, there's nothing to worry about when it comes to getting KO'd if you never get hit in the head. And Cannonier just would not target the head. It was body, it was leg kicks. He just never let the hands go. He needed to, like I touched on, when he finally threw any punches, he hurt Whittaker. And honestly, I'm still concerned about Whittaker's chin. We just never really saw it tested until a minute to go in the fight. So who knows going forward? All I know is, man, I'll tell you right now, if Whittaker gets in there with Adesanya, the pick's already in for me. It's going to be Adesanya again, but I'm sure he'll be a massive favorite, being as how it played out the first time. So let's see here. We're already there, man. The main event. Wow. The GOAT, the Eagle, Khabib Nurmagomedov gets the mounted triangle submission, 1:34 of round number 2 over Justin Gaethje. Wow, this was a good fight while it lasted, man. Super entertaining. Loved what I was seeing from Gaethje, man. Honestly, he went in there and fought a very good game plan. My man Cody Safdie talked about, it needed to be the low calf kicks from Gaethje. That was the weapon he was going to need to bring to this fight. And sure enough, he did, and I think it was really taking effect. I truly believe, had Khabib not got Justin down, and Justin had been able to, shuck off a couple more takedowns, land 4 or 5 more low calf kicks, I think he was very close to putting Khabib on one leg. And honestly, I would like to see how Khabib's walking right now after that fight. I think he screwed up, man. I think that leg's really hurting him. But Khabib, man, really goes for that last takedown. I felt like it was a goes for broke situation. Oh man, we heard so much this week about the wrestling of Justin Gaethje. And I got to be honest, man, I cringed every time I heard this argument about the wrestling we were going to see of Justin Gaethje. It just didn't exist, man. It might as well have been a guy out of the crowd in there with Khabib. Khabib takes Gaethje down. He truly had nothing in the takedown defense or the groundwork of Khabib. I mean, Khabib gets him down about 30 seconds left in the first round, immediately moves to mount and is working for an armbar right away, runs out of time. Second round, they're going at it. Khabib did actually pretty well on the feet, consistently pressured Gaethje, really was cooking Gaethje, pushing that cardio. And man, we saw Gaethje really labored, really working, breathing much heavier even after the first round than we probably did after 5 rounds in the Tony Ferguson fight. Which just goes to show, man, Khabib puts a pace, a pressure. As far as cardio goes, it's much easier when you're at a neutral distance, right? Or even moving forward. Khabib makes you walk backwards. You're moving backwards. You're circling out. You're going sideways. That's so much more inefficient for the human body to consume energy and to breathe, to move that blood. It's just not how human beings are designed. Khabib's always coming forward. There's always pressure. He gives you no time to breathe. I think he was going to cook Gaethje regardless, but like I said, man, those leg kicks were adding up. Khabib, phenomenal head work, man. He really ducked and shucked a lot of those big shots from Gaethje. Gaethje hit him with a couple good shots, but none of those big winging bombs that we thought he might. Like I said, man, Khabib gets him down. It had to be less than 30 seconds from the time in that second round. Khabib gets Justin down, immediately moves to mount, takes the back, and then starts working for the submission. Doesn't take the back. Moves from mount, brings the leg up over, gets the triangle, locks it in. I don't know if people noticed this. I did right away. Gaethje tapped about 2 different times, and the referee just kind of stood there, not really sure if he's tapping. Well, it didn't matter, man, because about 5 seconds later, Gaethje's snoozing, just snoring on the mat. Khabib Nurmagomedov, the Eagle, the GOAT, 29-0. He takes off the gloves. He's overwhelmed by emotion. R.I.P. Abdulmanap Nurmagomedov. The GOAT has retired. Thank you, Khabib Nurmagomedov, for what you've brought to this sport. What do you have to say about this one, Al?
Yeah, a couple things. First of all, I've never seen somebody so happy to get choked out. I felt like Gaethje was, he took the loss. It just goes to speak to his character. He took the loss super well. Even Whitman in the corner, he didn't. They were smiling and clapping for Khabib. It just seemed like he was preparing for a different type of fight. I don't know what he thought Khabib was going to do, but it was clear that Khabib wanted to show, and it was funny because DC was almost kind of coaching him by saying, like, he's going to have to go to his wrestling at some point. He's going to have to go to wrestling at some point, because you could tell, as much as Gaethje was trying to force the fight on the feet, what he was really trying to do was just chip away at those legs. And I didn't really notice it until you said it. But yeah, it looks like that those 2 takedown attempts at the end of the first round was kind of just going for broke, kind of just like, this is going to start to wear on me. I need to do something about this soon, because if I fall, if he gets in a vulnerable position, and that's what I thought was Gaethje's path to victory, was getting Khabib in a vulnerable position, and there wasn't really any of that. Khabib, yeah, he took some shots, but he didn't really. He wasn't really phased. He was more off balance from those leg shots. He seemed like he was outclassed. And another thing that I wanted to point out was Gaethje had this more of an open stance, as opposed to how he had like a boxing stance against Ferguson. Sure. And I feel like him going away from that boxing stance, it's so frustrating when you see somebody get to the pinnacle and then they get away from what got them there, and it's something that we've seen it before with so many. We've seen it with Costa against Adesanya. We've seen it many times where it's like, why you got to go with what got you to the dance.
Exactly.
And that weird type of open stance where he was like, showing his left hand, and like it was just clearly not. It wasn't working for him, and it wasn't efficient because he was so gassed. He was so out of it. Even before it got to the ground, he was exerting so much more energy. But when he was like this in this stance against Tony, it was roses. He was doing so well, and it's frustrating to see somebody get to the pinnacle. And I understand, it's more than I'll ever understand about MMA, but I don't get why these guys get to the pinnacle of their sport and then kind of go get away from what got them to the dance.
Sure.
And I think that's exactly what happened here.
Yeah, well, and I'm sure a lot of it has to do with the fact that, he probably wanted his hands lower so that the underhooks were always there. As soon as Khabib's coming in, he wanted to be able to shuck him. And we do need to give Gaethje credit, man. He really did fend off those first few takedowns early in the first round very well. I mean, he was not even close to getting taken down on those first attempts from Khabib. And I was kind of at one point like, wow, this is pretty impressive stuff. But you know what? Khabib is inevitable, man. The chain wrestling. He's not just going to go, well, I didn't get the first few attempts. Guess I'll stand and trade with Justin Gaethje the rest of the fight. No, it's like Khabib said coming into this fight, I'll shoot 100 times if I have to. Because the thing is, Khabib can fail 9 out of 10. That 10th one where he finally gets you down, boy, good luck getting up and good luck not burning all your gas getting up. And the thing with Khabib is usually when you get back up, guess what? You're going right back down. So, man, truly a great performance from Khabib. I got to tell you what, though, man, I did feel like we were kind of seeing Khabib even kind of pushed to his limit a little bit. He was breathing a little bit hard, taking some deep breaths. I was saying to myself, wow, Gaethje's really putting it to him. This might not be the best version of Khabib we've seen. And, I think I might believe that in certain ways, not having Abdulmanap there to push the training. Maybe Khabib wasn't running as many Dagestani mountains as he was when, Dad was around putting this pressure on him and stuff. Maybe Khabib isn't, pushing himself 100% every practice like he would have had Abdulmanap been there. It's very interesting to see how this could have played out had the fight gone longer. But again, man, when do we ever see somebody go from full mount to go to a mounted triangle and just put somebody out? I mean, out cold asleep. 10, 15. I mean, I'm not even sure if he was in that choke for 10 seconds and he was just out. I mean, incredible technique, incredible squeeze, incredible power. Khabib Nurmagomedov, man, 29-0. I truly believe we will never see Khabib again. I think he's going to hold his promise, promised his mother, promised his family, promised his training partners. I think this fight was in tribute to his father. And I think that'll be it, man. Khabib doesn't need the money. He doesn't need anything else. He's one of the biggest stars in the sport ever, the only UFC champion to ever retire undefeated. He's just a legend. He's the greatest of all time. The accolades continue. And personally, I hope we never see him come back. Let him be the guy who sets the new golden standard for MMA. We have sayings, no one avoids that first O in MMA. We've had the first person ever do it. He might as well be like the first man to land on the moon. No one's ever done this. It might be a while until someone ever accomplishes it again, especially to go 29-0. What do you think? Do we see Khabib again, or is this a wrap? Is this a wrap on the Eagle for us?
There's just a few things that make me think that he'll come back, and that's 29-0. And they talked about in the promo how their goal was 30-0. Mm-hmm. So maybe in 4 years, maybe something will happen where he'll come back. He's always going to be coaching, so he's always going to be around the UFC, right? So I can still see that. I can see in maybe like 4 years or something way down the line. If he comes back for one more fight, I don't think it'll be against GSP. GSP will be far past his ability to come back by then. A lot of people are saying that, this is bargaining for him to get the GSP fight, for him to say, I'm just done, and for him to try to get Dana to push for it harder. But Khabib is not that kind of guy. He's just not that kind of guy. He's not going to be pulling these strongman moves. He's done. He's done for now, at least. I think that he might come back, in like 4 years. Something that we didn't mention was they talked about in the post presser. Dana White mentioned that Khabib broke his foot in training. Apparently, not confirmed, but Dana White said it that he broke his foot in training.
Came into the fight with a broken foot, right?
Yeah, 2 broken toes and a broken bone in his foot. So apparently that might be why, we saw such the issue with the weigh-in. It would make sense. And then
it totally would, wouldn't it? It's a great point.
Especially if Dana was aware of this but kept his mouth shut, it would also explain, the shenanigans with the weigh-in, right? Like, that's a little bit off in left field, but I mean, there was no way if that this fight wasn't going to happen if they knew that he had a broken foot, but was still going to do it, especially with everything that he had been through. And like, I'm not trying to question the integrity of the UFC, but the scale moved. Like, the scale moved. So it just unless there's a better explanation, I think he missed weight. So I think it just goes to show how good of a performance it was, though, if he had a broken foot and he was still able to, just dominate like that. But then it also it's something that lends to the argument of he didn't want to take any more damage to that leg because he was probably it was vulnerable. So it's just who knows how this fight would have went if he was 100%. It might have been he might have got that first round finish against Justin.
There you go. Yeah, man. I honestly think we never see Khabib again. We have a whole stable of fighters, coming out of Dagestan that train with Khabib. I think we see Khabib essentially move into that role that probably his father left, and I think we'll see Khabib end up cornering quite a few of these young up-and-coming fighters coming out of Dagestan. We've got a ton of talent. They're making debuts left and right. I think we'll see Khabib, in the UFC as a coach, as a cornerman. But I do believe we've seen the last flight of the eagle. So there you go, folks. That is the recap. UFC 254 is in the bag. Thank you, Khabib. Cashes the Russian parlay for me. Made it a profitable night. I can't complain at all. Khabib Nurmagomedov, he was my favorite fighter, man. Another one calls it quits. All aboard the Chimaev train, baby. Get out of here.
No, just tune in next Saturday for UFC Vegas 12, right?
There you go.
Hall versus Silva. That'll be a good one.
There you go. And be sure to tune into all the other odds shows. We've got the Die Hard MMA podcast every Monday. We've got me and the boys on Friday nights breaking it down for the post weigh-in show. All of this brought to you by odds.com and Odds HQ. Hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and we will catch you guys later. Thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you next week.